And good afternoon, everybody. It is 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Look at him. Oh, he's taking care of everything right there in the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, I love it. John Russell, thank you for joining me again this afternoon. Along today with Dave Peace,
Yes,
who
sir.
I am in southern suburbs of the Twin Cities right now, quarantined and happy as a little pig in poo. And Day is down in northern Iowa.
Correct.
Now, are you in Mason City or are you actually in Lake Mills?
In Lake Mills, but
Okay.
like Mason City is sort of my backyard where
Gotcha.
when it comes to comedy.
Gotcha. And I mentioned you and I talk a little bit. I have a sister that used to live in Garner, Iowa, and so I'm very familiar with that area down there and all of the opportunities that it provides. Now,
Correct.
I have to say this. I met you when you first moved back. And
Correct. Yes, you did.
Yep. And you came to the open mic at Goonies in Rochester and absolutely killed it right away from the start.
Thank you.
And one of the things I like to tell people about you is you've got that kind of natural stage presence that you can't teach it. You just can't teach it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And so you found yourself, and now this is the thing that's interesting. You started doing comedy down in Phoenix, right?
Well, actually, the first time I ever got on stage was in Minnesota. It was at Acme.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, my story goes, I went from Detroit to Minnesota for school, but I dropped out after 30 days. And it was just one of those, like, either you do it or what's the language? Can we swear?
You can swear.
Okay, yeah. It was either one of those shit or get off the pot situations.
Yeah.
And I got on stage, tried it for for almost 6 months or so, but I was really just doing like the open mic. So it was just like once a week. Then I moved to Iowa for a job because I was with a girl and we broke up and I was like, get me out of Minnesota. And it was like, we're going to send you to Mason City, Iowa. So I came out here, met my wife. I hated it. So I'm like, I can't live here anymore. We moved to Arizona. And that's where like the comedy career started. So it was in Arizona where I started to pursue it.
Gotcha.
And that's really where the story picked up.
Gotcha. So now how long did you spend down in Arizona?
So I was in Arizona for 6 years. It was a 5-year plan. We ended up staying an extra year. So it was about 6 years.
Okay. And then you came back to Lake Mills. What kind of a magnet would bring a fella to Lake Mills?
People do crazy things for love, John. That's what happened to me. My wife, she trapped me with 2 babies and like we got married. And so she wanted to be closer to home after we had our first kid. And so we moved back. However, I will say there has been a lot of opportunity and things have been going pretty well for me after I moved back.
Yeah. Hi, Terry. Yeah, thank you.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Terry.
Swear all you want. The kids have already heard it. I guarantee you.
I appreciate that. We're going to say some shit. We should go through all the words in the book.
Well, we could. I know a few, and I've been known to, be artistic and a little bit. Anyway, so let's say this. So when you first came up and I met you and I knew you were cooking, but you really made something out of nothing down there in northern Iowa, didn't you? I mean, and I don't say that as like I'm trying to blow smoke. I mean, you really did. You went out and hustled and found places and really made that area your own.
Yeah, I would honestly say I'm not over exaggerating. Moving back here and still pursuing comedy has been the hardest thing that I've done with my career so far. Because I felt like I was making some steam in Arizona. I was about 6 years in and I was just starting to work at clubs, and then I moved here and it was like you start all over completely again, doing open mics and really just traveling to try to show people that I belong on some of these stages.
Right.
But in order to make it work, without being 2 hours from Minneapolis and being 2 hours from Des Moines, it required me to sort of look closer. And that's where that all came from. I looked at, banquet halls and bars and, where I did my album was at a community theater and they never had comedy before. So it really require me to start getting a little creative in order to really make this work.
Yeah. And to be fair, you really did hump it. I mean, you found places, and I'm not lying. If there are people doing comedy in North Iowa, you're probably the guy that blazed that trail.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best things about doing comedy in a bigger market is, you know, there's more opportunity, there's more comics to socialize. But then when you kind of go to a smaller market, the challenge is, how do you still deliver, you know, great comedy, great content in smaller venues and smaller, you know, rural areas. And honestly, there's been comics that just kind of been popping up in the area. People that's like, hey, I've always wanted to try it. There's never really been opportunity, and doing it as long as I can. It's all about sharing, you know, because there's that crab in the barrel mind mentality to a lot of people, and they're in competition with them. No, it's enough for all of us to eat, baby. It's enough for us to all have fun and get better at the craft and make people laugh. So I don't want to say, hey, I'm very much responsible for a lot of it, but I feel like my contribution has been great.
I agree 100%. Now let's talk about the fact that you just recorded your album.
Yes.
And you recorded, and it's called Peace of Mind.
Yes, sir.
And you recorded it in and I'm going to butcher the name of the theater, but not the community theater, but there's a nice theater that I've been to in Mason City. And it holds a good number of people, and you got to record it right there in front of, I'm assuming, a lot of really good supporters of yours. Yeah, no,
it's just called Mason City Community Theater, and it holds about 138, and it's very intimate. I actually, I went to a play a month before we did the show, and these actors and actresses, they were on stage without microphones, and you can hear everything crisp. So the acoustics, the sound in that room, I absolutely fell in love with. And they kind of approached me about it 6 months ago about doing a comedy show there, and I just, I'm very much a producer mind when it comes to putting certain shows together, and it's like, what show can I put here that'll make sense? And I was like, okay, I got a birthday show. That's always huge.
Yeah.
But I got to do something bigger than that, because this is a theater. We had, green room. Like, I got to make this an event that is just bigger than anything that I've done. And I just felt like it was time. I've been doing comedy for 9 years consistently. And I just wanted to be able to, again, when you're in a smaller area, you have to do things that allow you to branch out and reach out to, wider audiences. And I thought an album that I can stream, on these major platforms, and putting together like a DVD/Blu-ray that I can sell at shows. I just felt like this was that opportunity.
Well, and from all accounts and everything that I've heard, it turned out fantastic.
Yeah, it really did. Well, I know you guys had a show that night, but have you had a chance to meet Josh Francis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. He was a part of the show, and he's a young guy that I thoroughly enjoy working with, and he was on the show. I met him last year. Again, one of those guys that just kind of popped out of nowhere, and it was a great moment. It was like, I've been able to rewatch it, and I can't wait to get it out to everybody.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. As far as Josh Francis goes, he came up to the open mic before I stopped running it, and gosh, what a funny kid. Respectful kid. I couldn't ask more, and I wish for nothing but the best for that guy, because he's like the kid you always wanted,
He's fun. He's a fun kid. I got stories about him. He's a fun kid.
Now, speaking of kids, you've got some.
Yes, I do.
And go ahead and tell me what you got.
Yeah, I got 2 boys. I got 2 boys, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my 2-year-old, I tell everybody he's ugly, so I got an ugly baby, and and I got a baby girl on the way. So
congratulations!
Thank you. We about to snip it, be done.
There you go.
No day, like, we about to be done, but
no more.
Yeah.
So now, are you staying home with the kids during the quarantine then?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Like the funny thing about the quarantine, like not much has changed in my life other than making money and leaving the house on the weekends. But
There you go.
I love it. I love it. With our oldest, I felt like I missed out on a lot. You know, like his first 2 to 3 years of life, I felt like I didn't see him that much. So
Oh yeah.
this time around with the ugly baby, I feel like I'm so much a part of his, you know, the development, the learning, the data. Like it's been great. It's been great for us.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, it's funny because my kids, I get kids that one's 30 and one's 28, and the 28-year-old, he's got oh man. So among others,
I gotta hear.
You know, so like, let's just put it this way, and I have to be dainty because my own mother is watching.
Hey, mama.
And I'm like, I don't want you to think that this is in the past.
Mama, you got to know. He's got to get this out his spirit. He's got to tell the world how he really feels.
Oh my God. And I got to tell you, Dave, this is a great story. I think you're going to love it. So my oldest son had a job at a sheet metal factory, and he was running a computer, and he got promoted. And my youngest son was like, hey, well, I could use a job. My oldest son's like, well, I'll help you get in.
Right.
And so they go through all of it. And I tell my son, my youngest, you know they're going to drug test you, right?
Right.
Says, oh, no problems. I haven't done any weed for a long time. All right. Okay. So he goes through everything. He's like everything is like, we love you. We want you to work here. He goes out and he buys his Carhartts, and he buys some steel-toed boots, and he buys all the stuff. Right.
He got uniform ready. Okay.
He was ready and raring to go. He goes and does his drug test, and then calls me up and says, so Dad, plug your ears, Mom. My mom says, should I stop for a while? Nah, it's over. This was many years ago. And anyway, he calls me and he says, yeah, so that drug test, I didn't pass it. And I'm like, well, and he says, I got to tell you, Dad, they said they would allow up to like 0.3 parts per 1,000 or something. And I'm like, well, were you just like 4 or 5? He says, I was 487. And I'm like,
wow. Overachiever. He's an overachiever.
There you go. 3 or 4 months. Were you like rubbing it in your eyeballs?
That's crazy. And it's all legal now, but that's insane. Like it's insane that they're gonna, like, that's what they look for. I used to work in retail management where we drug test for like the first 8 years while I was with the company. And it amazes me how people would still go through the process knowing they smoke. Like I felt like they think it's like a 50-50 thing where like they may not get caught.
I'll tell you, I have been working up at the airport doing de-icing on planes because I among other things, it's nice pay and I love it and I love being up at the airport. But
nice.
One of the supervisors was telling me about, because they do random drug tests, right? And he was saying, yeah, we had one guy. He said, it's just random as you come in off shift, right? And it's like, you're good. You got picked for a random drug test. And he says, we point to the guy, says, you get a random drug test. He takes off his badge and stuff and says, yeah, I don't think I need to work here anymore. Just didn't even do it.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? It's like,
that's crazy.
Let's not waste anybody's time.
Into trouble.
Let's not waste time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
where's the unemployment line?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I know we had. Do we have you scheduled to come into Goonies this summer?
Yeah, we don't. The last time I was there for New Year's. Actually.
Oh, okay. You were there New Year's.
Yeah, and that was a great time. It's the first time I think I've worked a club for a New Year's that fell on a weekday, because it was a Tuesday. I was with John Bush, who was also here in Iowa.
Right.
And we had 2 shows. It was just a phenomenal time. But since then, I don't have anything in the books. And Goonies is just a phenomenal place. I love to come back.
We will we will definitely work on having you back there because I know the owner Mark loves you, and I think you're fantastic too. So
Mark is great. Mark, and I know you had Logan on last week, and one of our first conversations me and Logan had was about you and Mark and how Goonies is such a significant place to us, especially where we're at. So
yeah,
I can't wait to come back.
well, we'll get you there for sure. So I've been asking other people that are comics, and I've interviewed some people who are not. But before all this happened, before all this went down and everything got closed, was your album recording your last show, or do you have another show after that?
It was my last show.
Oh my gosh!
God willing, it worked out very well with that project because it's all independent. So I put every little dime that I had into it, and just leading up to it, I was just very happy and blessed that I was able to pack the house, do the show, feel really good about it. I miss where you live. No, where do you live now?
He's in
the distracted.
Yeah. I see. That's the thing. I'm sorry. I popped this stuff up there, and just because I feel like I need to acknowledge it.
You do need to acknowledge.
I know, because they're watching. Denny Ryan was in my high school class. In fact, my locker mate for 2 years. Day. He's down in Des Moines, Iowa, and Day is in the Mason City area. Denny.
Yeah.
So when you get you can drive that far to see somebody.
Yeah. No. I when I first moved here, I was doing more shows in Minnesota than Iowa. Now it's more balanced now. So
gotcha.
I go to Des Moines quite often.
Yep. So, there's a lot of stuff down there in Des Moines too, and a pretty active scene down there as well, right?
Very like surprisingly well. I mean, Iowa's so weird where kind of maybe similar to Minnesota, where there's just these areas that have comedies where there's like the Minneapolis and St. Paul, and that's kind of the same thing here, where we have the Cedar Rapids, which is just down there, and then we have our Des Moines and then North Iowa. And I try to hit everything that I can, because where I'm at right now, it's imperative that I go to as many places as I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Close to home.
I believe you, sir. I do.
Okay. So the album was the last thing that I did, and I had the week off after. So anytime I do like a major show, I like to try to take a week off if I can, or a weekend off. And the following week, I had a bunch of stuff lined up because I had a week off, and then it all got canceled. So
yeah. And Denny says, "Holler when you get down here." Actually,
we'll do, sir.
Doing shows, Denny. If Day or I are down in Des Moines, we'll certainly let you know. Because Denny is such a great guy. He loves comedy and he loves to support us.
How long have you, Danny? Have you been in Iowa? Because I need to know how to make it, how to keep going.
I think Denny's been in Iowa all his life.
Oh, okay.
And so he doesn't know any better.
Gotcha. I feel like I'm doing a stitch. It's going on 3 years, and it gets tough. It gets tough sometimes.
It does. So I know in your bio that you've worked with a lot of pretty famous comics. And what would you say would have been your favorite that you performed with?
That's tough. I have a couple of favorites. And I don't know if when I think of favorites, I think of significant, but one of my first early people that I got a chance to perform with that I just fell in love with was Rain Pryor, who was Richard Pryor's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, Richard Pryor is my number one, and this is like the closest thing to him, and she does a phenomenal Richard Pryor impersonation. And I was still an early comic. I was in like my first, year or two, and I just fell in love with her. She brought her daughter to the show. Like it was just such a, I want more of this as a comic in my going forward. Probably my favorite. I got a chance to work with the Wayans brothers, Damon and Marlon Wayans, on two separate occasions. And Damon, this happened in Arizona at the Tempe Improv. Damon was just so funny and legendary. I don't know, like with comedy with me, it's you can see it online and you can, watch the DVDs when they come out and Netflix, but there's just something about live comedy that'll change your spirit. And when you watch somebody perform and they're just in their element, it was just phenomenal. So watching him, like meeting him, great guy. Watching him perform was just amazing. And Marlon had the same thing. And Marlon was really fun because it was closer to home. He was actually in Iowa at the end of 2018 at a casino. And I'm like, there's no way somebody like this can come this close and I don't get I'm not a part of that show.
Absolutely.
So, through a lot of work and through a lot of like persistence, I basically forced myself on the show. And again, he was just really great on stage, and it just made me feel like longevity is the key. Like sometimes comics just want to be funny fast, and it's about doing this for years and years to come. So those two stand out a lot. Again, Rain Pryor is just, again, that was that first big deal for me.
Yeah. And now let's go to another thing like this, people.
Let's go.
Road horror stories. You got to have one or two of those, huh?
Not
really?
Well, here's the thing. It's a yes or no, because I'm just blessed to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, that's where my mind frame is, because again, my horror stories are really just that first year of moving back here and trying to prove myself and trying to, I remember I drove, it was like 4 hours for an open mic. And the guy was like, send me a video. And I'm like, it's an open mic. What are you talking about? And my car got a flat tire and it was raining. Like, it was all of these things that were happening. And to be honest with you, I get to the show, I don't think I had a great set. It was not a solid set. And I just remember driving 4 hours back home thinking like, you have got to love this to do this. But honestly, like, to be able to do this as a main source of income, and have my wife really be hugely supportive.
Yeah,
I'll take the horror stories, because for every horror story, there's a very fun, successful, I'm happy to be doing this story.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. As somebody once said, they're not all great, they're not all bad. There are some on both ends, but most of them are right there in the middle, and you got to just appreciate the fact that that's what we get to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. Like a fun one I was going to bring up earlier with Josh Francis is, we recently did a show probably about 6 months ago where it was in Minnesota. It was like southern Minnesota, and we get there early. And I don't get there early a lot. I'll be honest with you. I prefer to get there right when I need to. Mm-hmm. And we got there like a good 30 minutes early. We had a seat, we had a drink, and I ended up talking to the owner. I'm like, hey, we're good to go. She's like, yeah, do you guys have a microphone? I was like, what do you mean? You've had comics here before. She was like, yeah, but we don't have one. So they had to scurry around for 2 hours to get a microphone and a speaker. They finally get a microphone and a speaker. The microphone is cordless, which means it dies 2 minutes in. And Josh was my opener. And this is why I have so much love and respect for him, and new comics when they really like earn their stripes. But he goes on, he opens, he had to do about 15 minutes. He does about 17, 18 minutes. 2 minutes, the microphone dies. And so for like 15 minutes, he just yells his jokes. He just yells his jokes for like he was like a used car salesman, or like he was selling timeshares. It was so awkward. The bar was like noisy. They didn't give a fuck what was happening. They was just, but he kept going. And by the time I got on stage, they actually, soon as they introduced me and I was walking on, they walked in with a cord mic, and it was a good show for me. It was a challenging one for Josh.
Oh my gosh.
I run into a couple of those, working these little areas that's not crazy familiar with all the things that really make a great comedy show at some of these venues. Right.
And that's one of the things too. You got to be very flexible when you're doing shows in these smaller places, because a lot of places, as you mentioned, they're not always doing comedy. They don't do it. Maybe they do it once every year. Maybe they do it once or every couple of whatever it is. A lot of times they're not prepared. Right. And a lot of times the setup is not the best. I've told people, many times it's like, oh, well, don't you get mad if they don't have it set up right? Well, no, because it's like, I've told people this many times. If I went into a venue and they said, we'd like you to stand in front of this dumpster and tell your jokes, I would say, not my first choice, but if that's how you've been doing it, I'll do it, because ultimately that's their part, and my part is to just do the deal.
Yeah, and you learn from it, because I remember it was a day before Thanksgiving, and a bar hired me, and I got a local opener, and his idea for us to do a show where we just have a microphone, a cordless microphone, and we walk around the bar telling jokes. Like this is his idea of like, this is gonna be a great thing. And it was one of the worst shows that I'd ever done. And the worst thing about it is we were scheduled to do it twice. So we had to do an early show at 9 o'clock, and then we ended up doing a 10:30 show. And it was humiliating. And I mean, we got through it. I got that check, but like you said, like these shows happen. You just got to make the most out of it and learn. And then I would never do that again. Like I learned, God. I would never do a type of show like that ever again.
No kidding. I've told people this story many times. What's the smallest I've ever done is 4. But I did a show in Grand Marais. We were up there for 2 nights, on a Saturday and Sunday, of course.
Okay.
Or Friday and Saturday, sorry. Friday night, 8 people show up at this venue. 8 people. Well, you know what? You've been to small shows, right? You can have fun with 8 people. And we had a great time. And it was fantastic. And then the next night, we're like, I hope there's more people. Guess what? There were 8 people again. Exactly 8 people. But here's the problem with that. 4 people liked it so much on Friday, they came back the next night. And it's like, it ain't going to be different. We ended up screwing around a little bit. And oh my gosh, it turned out okay. Hey, Carol, how you doing? Yes, toilet paper is hard to find.
We kind of, I'm not gonna say we loaded up, but we got babies, so we have baby wipes. So like if things hit the fan, we're baby wiping it up. How are you? How's your supply?
For me or for Carol, it doesn't make any difference. Carol will tell us. Carol's from Kenosha, Wisconsin, Day. And we should Carol, we should figure out how to get Day hooked up and work that club over there. But having said that, my supply is good. My youngest son, he is a avid Sam's Club goer, and he had plenty of stuff. And to be honest, in my old age, I don't even like to use toilet paper anymore. I like to use the baby wipes, because if you're not doing that, why would you ever use something dry on your bottom?
It's a cleaner picker-upper. Yes, I agree with you 100%.
That's right. It's like, and then what is it the German says? Enjoy the go. I mean, really, that's gross.
I agree with you.
Junk mail. Yeah, it's hard to find. I'll tell you that. I saw somebody who had ordered some from someplace online, paid $30 for a dozen rolls. I was like, man, you really
that's sad.
I mean, just go to the shower after.
Yeah. Push comes to shove. Just go into the sink and just fan it up. Like,
come on, it's. You gotta. I mean, hard times.
Like, I don't know. Like, are people hosting dinner parties? Like, I don't understand how insane it's gotten. I don't know. In baby wife, like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy right now. Hey,
that's right,
Chris. I caught you guys episode. That was great.
Kristen, that's a different Christian. Kristen. This is Kristen from Virginia. I've known her for about 5 years from playing a game online. $17 for 3 waters for a CPAP machine. Well, you get the wrong CPAP machine, I'll tell you that much.
That's too much money. Stop it, guys. That's crazy.
It is. Don't pay for that. I got it. No, my gosh. You talk about whole different things. So with this new job, right? I won't fly on an airplane, right? I used to have I have sleep apnea because I'm a big old fat bastard. And I've had a CPAP machine. I've had it for 15 years. It's the size of a shoebox, right? And here I am hauling this big ass thing. So I'm like, I get this job and I'm like, hey, I really need to get a smaller CPAP machine. I got one now. I'm not going to grab it, but it's just it's the size of this coffee cup. It's just tiny. And I'm like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing? But I do the same kind of thing. Same kind of thing, right? It's like when my microwave oven went to shit, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to get another one. They're expensive. Because in my old brain, it's like they're the same price they were 25 years ago. and I go in and it's like you can get a microwave oven for 45 cents, you know? And it's like, yeah, you buy a microwave oven, get a coffee pot for free. It's just like it's insane because all of this stuff has come down so much.
You're showing your age right now. Yeah.
Let's be honest. I'm old and I'm in the target of this virus. So this could possibly be the last time anybody ever sees me.
They're trying to take you out. They're trying to take you and your kind out. I got you.
Anybody comes around looking at my doorknob, they're going to be sadly mistaken because I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I mean, like I do Facebook Live videos from time to time, and we're gonna get through it. Like, just I know it's crazy and it's scary, but like, hey, try to get back to your normal routine as much as possible. Laugh, have fun, enjoy your time, enjoy the time with your family. Maybe get caught up on something that you've been procrastinating about. But like, let's just make the most of our time. It's gonna pass.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I was going to talk to you about too was. You've been doing a show on radio down there in Mason City for quite a while too, haven't you?
Yeah. It's been it's been over 2 years now, and it's on 103.7 The Fox, which they do a lot of like they actually I don't know what their deal is, but they're connected with the Bob and Tom broadcast, and they have a bunch of Bob and Tom comics that'll actually come through and they'll do a show. And so they have a spot kind of in the area that they do maybe one or two, national headliners that'll travel through. And it's just like, it's a guy named Harry O who's like, hey, as comedy is becoming a little bit more frequent, like, how would you like to just kind of come on here and chit chat and talk about comedy and have fun? And that it's been a great outlet because it's a classic rock station. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't listen to classic rock. I don't, not even a little bit.
You're not in the demo.
Yeah, I'm not in the demo. So it's been great to reach, a different audience. And I love every opportunity and every platform. Just like this, what you're doing is dope because it's another opportunity to, broadcast and display us and yourself. So any opportunity that I get like that, especially when I like the person that's behind it, I'm all for. And again, we just kind of mess around on the radio for. It's a week show. It's a weekly show, so it's like a Monday through Friday thing where we just air a small segment, and it's fun. It's fun. You did radio for a long time.
Yeah, and that's the reason I bring it up because radio's fun. Radio's still a hard medium because as people get more choices on how to be entertained, it's harder and harder for radio. And we always used to say, this was even back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Radio was very much becoming a medium for people who weren't very affluent. Because if you can buy an iPod, you can plug it into your car, and you don't have to listen. You can listen to whatever you want to. The only thing that's good about radio still is that element of locality. Of local personality, and that's where you fit in, and I think you really help very much with doing that.
And like well said, I think there's so many different ways to listen to radio now, and like you said, there's so many different options. Yeah, if it's not a radio personality, or if there's not something that you can look forward to in the morning, a segment, something like that, why tune in at all? So no, it's been fun. I never see myself. My wife was talking to me about this the other day. She's like, hey, have you ever thought about like kind of going more into it and being like a broad? I never thought more about it because it's just fun for me. But like, I don't know. I think it takes a lot of it takes a huge personality. It takes a huge commitment to do that. How long did you do radio?
17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
do you miss it? Do you miss it at all?
I don't miss the politics of it because that's what you have to deal with. And as I got into stand-up, I mean, first of all, I sure wish I would have started doing stand-up while I was still in radio. Would have made things way easier. Way easier. Yeah. But You know, I wasn't. I didn't know any better.
Mhm.
But the thing about comedy and radio that's similar
Mhm.
is that if you don't do well at a radio station because of ratings, that's one of the reasons that they'll get rid of you.
Mhm.
And to be honest, they can do that at the drop of a hat.
Oh.
It's and the problem is, and I think I mentioned this yesterday when I was talking with Lou Hudson, there's always somebody that's going to do it for $1 an hour less than you want to,
Mm.
you know, unless you're a morning guy. If you're a morning guy, they just like you're there until it's like it doesn't make any sense anymore. And typically the ratings. Then if you want to continue in radio, because there's only really now there's maybe 2 owners in a radio group, right? I don't know what it's like in Mason City. There might be only 1 ownership group there for all the stations, right? So you get canned off of one station, you're not going to the other one that they own. You're now out of radio in that market.
Right.
And so it becomes where you got to chase around the country to try to find another job, and it's just like that is just too much work. And so when you get into comedy, then you got to chase around the country every night trying to find work.
Yeah. How do you feel about the politics in comedy? Do you feel like they're very similar, or is it, you know?
Okay, so when you start, I think they're very similar. When you're new in comedy and you're starting off, and let's be fair, I started when I was very, very late in life compared to most people. So I think it was a little bit different for me.
Okay.
I'll say this: I went to a comedian's funeral, and most of the people that showed up were comedians from the '80s that thought they knew me only because of my appearance. I'm like, no, I haven't done. It was very weird. It was like, don't you know me? No, I don't fucking. I have any idea who you are. I started this 3 years ago. You know.
Okay.
But it was yeah. So it was very strange. But having said that, I think in depending on where you are and how things work for you, and it's first of all, as you well know, it's an individual sport.
Correct.
It's kind of like wrestling in the fact that it's an individual sport, but it's best when you have a team behind you, and everybody's at their own separate weight class, right? So I go up as the MC and I do X and Y and Z, and that's my job, and I win it. And then you come on next, and you do that, you know, kind of thing. And with all shows, but point being, it gets a little cliquey sometimes. But if you can find your way to getting paid some way, shape, or form to where you don't have to worry about that stuff, it then becomes a little bit less political.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. No, I respect it. I think it's all about like those nuggets and the knowledge of this game. It's I feel like it's our responsibility to share and sort of make it easier for the people coming up, you know, behind us. Like I said, there's those comics that's like, I'm not gonna tell you my secrets, or I'm not gonna tell you but the truth is, again, it's enough room for everybody, and ultimately I feel like it's that karma thing. You put that energy out there, you know, it's going to come back for you. So I just thought I'd pick your brain a little bit. Sorry.
No, and I'll be honest with you. I didn't think you were going to go that way with it. I'm all about, if I can help anybody, I'm all about helping them. Right. It's just sometimes it's very strange. Like, you know, I had somebody contact me about doing. I don't want to say the name of the thing, but a lot of comics are getting specials. And to be fair, God love everybody that got to do one, but some people, I don't get it. I got contacted by one of my headliner friends, national headliner. He says, contact this guy today. They are looking to fill spots to record for this.
Okay.
I just talked with him about it last night. He sent me the text at 7 a.m. I sent out an email immediately. I got an email back from the guy who was desperate to find anybody to record this at 10 o'clock and said, we're full for the fall. Sorry. And it's like, you did not fill that whole. So it's, and it just happens. It's the same kind of thing. I have friends that I get work from bookers, and they can't get in with, and I have no idea. And I'm like, hey, could you use this guy? Have him send them the stuff, and it's like, but it's all so weird because it's all, it's all subjective.
Yeah, it's a very interesting business, and there aren't a lot of clear answers. Sometimes you never get them. It's just because. But I was gonna say I constantly try to just remind myself what is meant for me will happen, and if it doesn't happen, it just wasn't meant for me. And with all the rejection and with all the craziness that happened in this business, I try to stay on that level of thinking. So
yeah, and the great attitude that you have is feeling blessed that you get to do it. I mean, and that's the only way to think about it, and really pretty much the only way to think about life.
Yeah, I think like when my approach to the album recording had changed so much leading up to like working on the material, what I was going to do, what I wasn't going to do, what jokes to really share with the world. And I derived at, let me just do the stuff that got me here, that same mentality, that same energy. And that's what I like to just hold. Like, I want to hold on to that for as long as I can, the stuff that got me to this point, because I think a lot of times comics try to switch it up, and no, like stay true to who you are.
Yeah. Andy Fisher was
on Andy? It's been a minute. Andy's actually been down to Mason a couple times.
Yeah. And I think what he says there is true. I think self-producing for online, it's been going that way for a long time. And again, I'll say this. I don't ever fault anybody that does something that I don't like, because I'm a firm proponent that if you do something that somebody likes, you're going to find an audience, right? Like this guy that does the Manitowoc Minute. Dumbest shit I think I've ever seen in my life, but he has 4 million people watching it, and God love him. And he's been able to he's performed at the House of Comedy as the headliner. And
it's crazy how things work. You did an episode last week, and you were talking about not throwing shade and everything like that, but it's hard not to be affected by some of the people that have certain success, that when you compare it, it's not completely equal. In my area right now, there's literally about 11 comics. Or 11 people that do comedy, and that put their, they have a comedy Facebook page, and I have beef with like half of them for no reason other than we're just all trying to do different things. And, that mentality that you have is, eventually it's all subjective, and do you, I'm going to do me. And we're all essentially working together because we're all colleagues in this same business of making people laugh, making people happy.
Absolutely. All right. So before I get to Carol's comment, hi, Mikey. Mike Solberg from up in Fargo Moorhead. Is Mary Max still making the rounds? Yes, she is. I just saw a post from her on Facebook. She and her husband Tim Harmston, who is also another fantastic comedian, are both holed up somewhere in northeast Minneapolis for the quarantine. So they're not.
They're both great.
God, they're both. Not only are they great, they're very awesome people.
Mac was one of the first people I saw that I was just amazed by. Yeah. Like, she was just, again, first time I ever got on stage was at Acme, and first time I saw her, I'm like, who is this woman? And she's made it out to Arizona. When I was in Arizona, I didn't get a chance to work with her, but I caught her shows, and she is just still a juggernaut. Like, good shout out.
Absolutely. And now here's from Carol. What is your most memorable moment in comedy that you can remember? Which would be kind of a play on words. But only good memories. I like the only good memories, Carol. Favorite memory from comedy so far, Dave?
Honestly, it's kind of a cheap answer, but it's gonna be the album recording that I just did. It was so special. It was so hard. Like again, when I put every little bit of me in this, and it was so beautiful to be there, to perform. The support obviously was there. The newspaper, the local newspaper, they wrote a front page article. Like, it was just so beautiful to see everything come together. And like I said, I'm still working on getting it packaged up to present for everybody. And it's not like my best set ever in life. It's not the funniest thing that I've ever done, but it's really so beautiful and true and real and exciting. And it's the memory, I replay it every time I get a chance to rewatch it. So that's really my most recent one. What about you, Jay?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm like you. You do this long enough, you get a lot of different memories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you two of them. Two of them are, the first one was I got to work with Moshe Kasher at I guess it was a fundraiser for a men's halfway house in Lincoln, Nebraska, at a absolutely fabulous theater, 3 decks on it. And I was nervous because it was the first time I worked for this booker called Recovery Comedy, for comics who were recovering from alcoholism, drug addiction.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so I was a last minute fill in, and the guy that recommended me to fill in for him lied to me and said, "Oh, that Moshe Kasher, he's mean as hell to people."
Yeah.
Careful, right? So I'm like, "Arr!"
Right.
So I get there, and it's beautiful. I'm in my own little dressing room, which I did at this, and then the organizer comes in and says, "Oh, Moshe's here. I'm going to take you upstairs and you can meet him." And I go up, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he was the nicest freaking guy, right? And then fast forward to before we go on stage, and the lady says, "Okay, so the director's going to get up, say a few words, and then he'll bring you on, John, and you'll open the show, and then we'll have Moshe come out." And he and I are standing backstage, and he says, "Oh, this is dull. I hope you're going to be a little bit dirty. Is your act a little dirty?" And I'm like, "No, it's not dirty. They told me PG-13. That's the first time he ever worked for me." He says, "I told him I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want." He says, "Yeah, well, you can do that because you're the guy they wanted.
Yes.
They didn't give a shit about me."
Yeah.
So that was a good memory. And then after the show, he's like, "Hey," and he's selling books, and he's like, "Hey, come here and sit with me so I don't feel like I'm just alone." And I felt like, and that's that camaraderie, because when you're just starting, you kind of feel self-conscious about stuff. So that was awesome. My second favorite memory was I get to open for Gilbert Gottfried, and I've got to open for him like 8 times, which is awesome.
Gilbert is hilarious.
He is so funny and very dirty. So I just
one of the dirtiest.
I say that so my mother doesn't look up his stand-up.
Yeah, don't do it, Mom.
But after the show, the first year that I was working with him, and it was done. He's selling his merch out, and he's selling a book. He's got a book that's funny called Rubber Balls and Liquor, imagine. And I wait until the end of the line, and I go up and I say, "Hey, Gilbert, man, it was just a real honor to work with you, a highlight of my career. If you ever come back, I'd love to do it for you again." And he says, "Oh, well, that's very nice of you to, because off stage he's very soft-spoken. He's very nice of you to say." And then I say, "Well, you don't have to cry about it." And he says, "Get the fuck out of the way. I'm trying to make a buck." So he was himself, and then he goes right back to care. And it was just that part was just so awesome. And honestly, I'll never ever forget that. Never forget it. Yeah, awesome. You're right. Dirty comedy is an easy way to get out, but I mean, when it's done properly, Carol, it is. It is. Oh boy, and Gilbert's like the best dirty comic I think I've ever seen. I
agree with you. I mean, as far as like that I've seen live and that is still working today, he's just great. Like, yeah. And you watch his movie, because I'm 80s baby, so his voice and like he was just that guy, but as a comedian, like as a stand-up performer, he's something else. And I respect that. That's great. And as far as clean comedy, like I think it's very important to be versatile and have the ability to, do your PG sets and then your dirty. But I never want to limit anybody. So clean, like there's this like stigma like with dry bar comedy, like do comedy however you want to do it. So if you want to be super clean, be super clean. If you want to be super dirty, I don't really like discriminate in that fashion anymore. I do recommend trying to be as versatile as you can because I've done shows for little kids, and again, I like to swear. So when you're able to be versatile, you have more opportunities to do things. So.
Hickory dickory dock, you're correct. I will say this
I don't like dice.
No, he was always obnoxious. He was always obnoxious to me. I was never a huge fan of his. I would say this. I mean, for comics that are starting or anything, I wonder what I should write. If I got an idea today, write clean. If you write clean, you can always dirty it up. But if you write it dirty, you can never clean it up. It is not the same. I guarantee you.
Amen.
I guarantee you.
Amen.
Let's see. What else do we got cooking?
Good.
So how many shows have you had cancel now through all of this? Quite a few.
It's only been about 4.
I'll tell you, it seems like we've been on this quarantine for months, even though it's only like a week and a half, right?
These are the dark days. I agree, and I could not agree more because it's only been what like 2 weeks, essentially, and it feels like years. Like I'm ready to I don't know, like it's a different feeling right now, and I hear you, but like I said, it's gonna pass. I know that, and we're just waiting it out, and we're just being smart and safe. So I get all that.
Now, having said all of that, have you and there are all over the place the now virtual open mic. Have you done any of these yet? Do you plan on doing it? Are you thinking about doing it?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit.
Don't even want to.
No interest whatsoever. And it's definitely not a knock to anybody that's doing it. I think the fact that the community has really come together to put out, this and still kind of connect to an audience. I think it's awesome. I commend it. I respect it. It's just not for me. And what I learn about and what I like about myself is learning about what works and what doesn't work. And I don't mind doing Facebook live videos where I get to be silly and promote stuff. And I like doing things like this where we just kind of get to chat and you learn stuff and you put information and knowledge out. But as far as anything more than that, the art to me is so precious where I feel like the best way to do it is just live performance or you do a recording. So I can't imagine myself doing it. What about you? Have you thought about doing it?
I thought about it and then I thought no. Because for me, and I think I'm like you, the fun of it for me is being with an audience. Being able to participate with the audience, and I understand why a lot of these people are doing these virtual open mics. It's because they have that need for community. Because a lot of the open mic comics, this is their social life. They've got some kind of a day job where they're a server or they're doing something else. And their social life. I mean, it's literally half and half. And so for a lot of people, and I say this all the time on this show, it's a show now, right?
It's a show.
It's a show. I say this all the time, though. For people who are creative, it's important to have that outlet. It's important to have that so that people can respond to what you're doing.
Right.
And I just say, if you see one of these virtual open mics, please go watch it. Give it a like as you go by. I always like everyone when I go by if I can find it, because that helps those people get eyes. It helps them be validated for what they're doing. Because let's be honest, every one of us that does comedy, every one of us that plays an instrument, every one of us that does any type of artistic endeavor, we only are paid minimally, and the only thing that we really get back that feeds us is that approval that we get from the audience.
Yeah, that feedback, that, like you said, validation. So yeah, no, like I said, no knock to it. I think it's beautiful that a lot of people are doing it, and I think it's been very special that during this time people are finding different ways to get it out. But for me, like I said, I've been working so much on the album, and I've just been kind of thinking about when this all passed, what I'm going to be working on, what I'm going to be doing next. So
yeah, there's D'Angelo. The outlet is everything. D'Angelo Funches. I think I have him coming on. Yeah,
we just became friends on Facebook. What's up, baby?
Yep. I think I have D'Angelo coming on with me on Monday.
Dope.
I think so. I love D'Angelo. He's a young, smart, respectful guy, and very, very funny.
Good.
And he's I think the world of that kid too.
Yeah. Anytime I add somebody on Facebook now, I gotta screen them. And I always scroll through. I look at what they're talking about, what they're saying, and he had some really funny posts, and that's awesome. I'll check you guys out on Monday.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The only people that I do not accept friends from are the ones that are girls and write in Russian. Pretty sure they're fake. Those are the fake ones. Yeah. Ones that have pet raccoons, I'm automatically allowing them in. You got a pet raccoon? What the hell? Let's talk.
Yeah.
So in this, do you have, like you said, you were thinking about what you're going to do next. Do you have any plans? Are you writing new stuff since you've now recorded this album? Do you have some stuff in backlog that you'll be able to use, or?
So kind of like before my shows got canceled, I started coming up with this new set list that I wanted to start, shopping, or not shopping around. I wanted to start performing and going around with, but because they got canceled, I was like, oh, maybe I should kind of focus on other things. So I'm going to attempt to do something this summer where when I produce shows, it's normally like, 3, maybe 4 a year in the area, where basically you sell a ticket, and, that's how it kind of gets paid for. I normally like to spread it out. This summer, I'm going to do something where it's going to be a back-to-back type of thing. So I'm going to do like 3 shows in 4 months at this one particular venue. And I'm really just wanting to, like I said, my whole thing about producing comedy, especially here, is about bringing big-time comedy to a small, local market. So I'm looking forward to that. That's kind of something big. And then, like I said, getting this product out and just trying to figure out what I want to talk about next, because I think there's a lot of material for a lot of people that's been going on these last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, a lot of weird and crazy stuff. Now, we've been on almost an hour, and I love it. This has been so much fun. But
good. Like I said, real quick, thank you for having me, and thanks for thinking about me. And to kind of go back just a little bit, when I got a chance to meet you back at Goonies, it was so reassuring for me, because again, I kind of moved to this new place and I don't know who the players are and who's calling, and when I got a chance to go to Goonies, I was like, this is, because I never been to the old Goonies, never.
Oh, that's right.
But I've heard nothing but great things, and when I got a chance to go finally, you were very much like a like a light for me, where I was like, this guy gets it. He understands comedy. He can acknowledge, like he can recognize it. And I felt really good about that. And since going there, I've been back. I actually hosted just to kind of prove myself to Mark. And now I've been able to feature a bunch of times. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Well, thank you. You're more than kind to say that. You don't need to, because honestly, my friend, you deserve it. You work hard, and you deserve everything you got. One thing I'm going to ask you before we're done.
Let's go.
Is I see 2 guitars on the wall back there.
Yeah.
Got one handy. I need to hear something from you, because I know you play. I know they're not just for decoration.
First of all, they are 100% for decoration.
Oh, yeah. I saw you sing a song the other night.
Did you hear? Oh, did you hear any of it? Because it was really bad. But you know what? For the people, I will give you something. I'll give you something.
This is what I'm talking about. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little introduction.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who's traveled the roads, the back roads, the highways, the byways. He's been all around this great big country of ours, and he made it a choice to make his home in Lake Mills, Iowa, where he is now the most famous son of Lake Mills, Iowa. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear.
Okay, here we go, baby. I just wrote this song, and I appreciate y'all for checking us out and supporting us. And I am one of the greatest singers I think I've ever heard today. So you gotta learn. You gotta learn to be yourself. JR, baby. The crowd goes wild.
Oh boy, there's nothing like good singing, and that was nothing like good singing.
That's why I stick to jokes.
I'll tell you what, my friend, thank you very much for doing it.
You,
I really do. That's awesome that you would do it, because a lot of people, I'll say this, a lot of people would say, nah, no. But you know what? You certainly would. All right, so let everybody know. So you got your album recorded on March 13th, and you've got probably a little bit of production to do to get it ready to
yeah.
When are you planning to release it for sale?
So the plan is initially it was the summer, but with all this free time, we're looking at late April, early May. I think May 1st might be the day that I'll be able to get it out and ready for everybody. And yeah, man, it's so exciting to put something together and have it really look and feel and sound the way that I really wanted it to. Like I said, it's not a perfect album or anything like that, but I feel really good about putting this out for everybody to hear and listen to and watch. And yeah, stay connected with me. DavePeaceComedy.com is my website, and you can get me on all the social medias. And I'm on dating websites just to get new fans. So I'm on Farmers Only, Bumble. Hit me up, y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's been a lot of fun.
You do it. And depending on how all of this pans out, when you release your album, let's do this again, huh?
Absolutely. I would love to.
That way we can put the link right there and people can buy it right off of here, and I can get my 4% commission.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Only 4%. 4%. All right. Everybody, Dave, you were awesome. Thank you so much for doing with me. Again, to everybody that's watching, thank you. Keep yourself safe. Keep yourself sane. If you find somebody else that's creative, any kind of an artist, and they're doing something live on Facebook or Instagram or wherever it may be, please stop, give it a watch, give it a like, help them out, because it's more for their mental health than it is for them to get rich, because guess what? They weren't getting rich beforehand.
Amen.
And other than that, tomorrow, I believe I'm going to have Logan Nielsen on again, because see, here's what happened. You saw that. My sister interrupted the whole goddamn time.
She wanted to talk. I get it.
She wanted to talk. She wanted to talk, but then she wouldn't come on Sunday. I said, "Come on Sunday." Nope, I'm sick. I'm sick. My ass, you're sick. Anyway, so folks, thank you so much. We appreciate it more than you know. Give another and find Day on all the social media. Track him down. Give him a like. Follow him, because he is a fantastic talent. And if you're in North Iowa or Southern Minnesota, he's a guy you want to keep your eye on. Folks, thanks again for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.